Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. So the Saw movies have always been a significant part of the foundation of this channel, and today we're going to cover some of the most insane facts about the Saw movies. Let's start off with a classic, the trap that made everyone really uncomfortable, the needle pit. Not only is it easily the most disturbing trap, or one of the most disturbing traps, but the preparation behind the scenes is equally as wild. Originally, this trap was supposed to be designed in such a way that the hole would be filled all the way to the top with needles, but that presented countless logistical problems, not the least of them being that you can't actually swim in a pool of needles, which is what the idea behind this whole thing was supposed to be. You wouldn't sink through, but rather crawl on top, and nobody could have guessed just how many needles they would need to fill up the whole thing. Furthermore, the needles did not actually come in finished batches which they just dumped into the hole. No. They needed to take each syringe out of the packaging, take out the metal needle tip, and replace it with a fiber optic cable. Every single needle. The production designers also allegedly underestimated the sheer amount of needles that would be required to pull off this trap. They started out with 20,000 syringes and it barely covered the floor. They added another 40,000 and again it just wasn't enough. The final count was about 120,000 needles in the pit, and even then they had some more simple syringes which they just dumped in to sort of act as padding. Now if you watch this scene, you know that this hole is not even filled with needles, it's just the bottom layer. And while we're on the topic of disturbing traps, the Saw movies were never actually intended to be a super violent movie franchise, and I think anybody that has actually seen the first movie will understand this. The first Saw almost acts more like a contained thriller than some kind of low-budget gore fest. That reputation only came after the critical reception of the first movie, where countless critics wrote the film off as portraying pointless bloodshed. These reviews are still online, by the way. Go on Rotten Tomatoes and you can see people writing reviews for the first Saw movie that make it seem like the Human Centipede when really it's more of a dark thriller. After that reception, the film seemed to lean further and further into that controversy to get more attention. Now, arguably the craziest trap setup that I've seen in the movies was the giant swinging blade. In case you forgot, in this trap a killer is tied to a board with a giant blade swinging above him, and it's slowly lowered. Eventually it cuts into him, splitting him in half, and it looks very real, and that's kind of because it is. The blade is actually swinging, the actor is really lying there, and the blade is cutting into a prosthetic. The way it was set up is that the actor sort of leaned down with half of his body being on the table. They connected a prosthetic to him, but the blade really does cut into the prosthetic while the actor is lying there. I would have been way too scared to do this. While how they pulled off the traps is definitely impressive, in my opinion, the making of the first movie is even more unbelievable. Saw 1 was filmed in only 18 days, and all of it is actually filmed in this one building. This is an insanely fast production for a movie as impactful as Saw. And really think about this. The hospital, Dr. Gordon's house, the main trap, the other trap locations, Adam's apartment, the motel, the police station, everything, it's all in this one location. The car chases were done by waving lights by the cars to make it seem like they're driving when they're just standing still. But did you know that the first movie was also supposed to be found footage? Inspired by the Blair Witch Project, one possible approach for the movie would have been to film the entire thing through security cameras. An idea that wasn't completely abandoned, since in the final movie there are numerous shots that are done with a hidden camera style. But if they would have gone down that path, the setting would have been changed from a bathroom to an elevator, and the elevator security camera would have been our point of view. And the inspiration for the Saw movies is not what a lot of people think. I've heard so many rumors about where the idea of the Saw franchise came from. One thing that a lot of people told me was that it came from one of the filmmaker's kids who had nightmares, which served as the inspiration for the concept. But as far as I know, that isn't true at all, and I don't think that James Wan or Leigh Whannell had children at the time. The actual inspiration came from Leigh Whannell, who played Adam and wrote the screenplay. He had a bit of a scare with an MRI screening and thought about what would happen if he got a terrible diagnosis, like John Kramer ends up getting. and went psychotic afterwards. And many of the scares from the movie were inspired by Wan's and Winnell's nightmares when they were younger. But I mean, that shouldn't surprise anyone, right? Now on to something that's really sad but nevertheless really interesting. Producer Greg Hoffman died only a year after the first film's release, but he is still credited on all of the Saw movies. You can actually see him talk in the behind the scenes of the first movie, and you can tell how passionate he was about the movie and how he really believed in both Leigh Whannell and James Wan to make the project a success. And he was right, both of them went on to have amazing careers in Hollywood. And did you guys know that there is a Saw movie short film which came before any of the movies, which you can watch online completely for free? Now, some people think that the Saw movies started out as only a short film. This part isn't true. As far as I know, the short film was created to pitch the full movie in Hollywood along with the script. It shows Leigh Whannell, who plays Adam's character in the full version. Here he's in the reverse bear trap, pretty much the same as the iconic scene in the first movie where Amanda is stuck in the same trap. It plays out very similarly and features the same visual aesthetic as the final product. I think this short is incredibly interesting because it shows just how talented James Wan and Leigh Whannell are to pull off what would become such an iconic scene without the help of a major studio or major funding. And after making a few short films myself, which are not nearly as good as this, I can tell you guys that even though it looks almost improvised and the flow is very natural, this is a huge amount of work. And that talent definitely carried over to the full movie. Since the budget was relatively low at about only $1 million and they only had one location in less than 3 weeks to get all the footage, there was a lot of pressure. James Wan even noted that there was so little time when making this movie that quite a few rehearsal takes ended up in the final movie. And while they were filming some of the last shots on one side of the set, the other side of the set was already being deconstructed.
We were trying to beat it before the production crew started tearing down the set. It was like Richard Corman.
The design of the puppet came from James Wan himself, and it's made out of clay. You can actually see it in the short film already. The puppet looks the exact same, just that it wears a cute little top hat. Not gonna lie, I'm kind of glad that they got rid of that thing. The only thing less intimidating would have been a fedora. Even though I'm sure it's not a lot of people's favorite, the most financially successful film in terms of box office intake was actually the third movie with about $165 million. I would argue that this is largely because of the notoriety of the second movie, so everyone was standing in line to see what twisted ideas they would come up with in the next film. The Saw movie with the highest kill count is Saw 3D with a grand total of 27 kills and 8 traps, which don't seem like particularly large numbers, but that's what my source said. Now, even though we don't really get yearly Saw movies anymore, and the ones we do get rarely release on Halloween, the films used to be a Halloween tradition of sorts, and much of the old marketing material had the tagline, "If it's Halloween, it must be Saw." Saw was the Halloween franchise, which it remained until Paranormal Activity came along and gained popularity and ate a large chunk of Saw's pie. And something that I learned only recently, DreamWorks, Steven Spielberg's production company, offered to make the first movie, but it would have meant that there would be compromises in the creative vision. Since Leigh Whannell wanted to act in this movie and James Wan wanted to direct, the duo accepted a lower offer from Twisted Pictures, which gave more creative control to them. I think this is amazing because I really don't associate DreamWorks with horror, although they did make The Ring. Still, this intro has always conveyed childish innocence to me. It's like if Disney made the next Texas Chainsaw. And a couple of rapid-fire final facts. Mark Hoffman killed a total of 42 people in the Saw movies. Between the movies and games, John Kramer kills a total of 240 people and animals. That includes 144 people up to Saw X, 4 people in Saw X, and 92 pigs. If we're not counting the games, it's only 32 people, 28 up to Saw X, and 4 in Saw X. So much to the line, "I'm not a killer." Amanda kills only 4 people, I think. So those were some of the craziest facts that I could find about the Saw franchise. Let me know if you guys know some more insane facts about either this franchise or just any other horror movie. When I do this type of video, there tends to be a lot of valuable information in the comments, and I can always learn from you guys in that way. Anyway, I hope I see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.